All right, we'll now roll into the recruiting class this year for Michigan. Reminder that things can still change. Other guys can add. There is still some room for Michigan to add a couple prospects here. But here are the guys who have signed today. And we start with the guy that we just discussed, 4-star tight end MUSTAPHA Muhammad. James, you and I are both excited about his ability.
Yeah, he's a beast of a tight end, Tom. He took snaps out of the backfield as a running back. He played defensive line here and there. He's just a phenomenal player, Tom. And if you see the offense they ran, he ran one of those true Texas spread offenses. So they didn't have him line up, like a Michigan tight end would line up, which is kind of inside the, right next to the tackle or anything like that. That was not the role he had in high school. What he did, Tom, is he split out more like a slot receiver, sometimes an outside receiver. So if Michigan wants to go to more of a spread style or pistol style spread offense, which we've broken out there, that's pretty likely they're going to explore if Shea Patterson becomes the starting quarterback next year, then this guy could be getting some playing time next year because he could spread the field like no Michigan.
That's fluid right there, what you just saw on screen.
Like no Michigan tight end they have on the roster. Maybe Zach Gentry has potential to do that, but this is the best recruit Michigan has, number 134 overall, which is a big change, Tom. The last couple of years, Michigan has been littered with 6, 7, 8 top 100 guys in the 2016 and 17 class. So to have your tight end number 134 is a little bit of disappointment, Tom. Michigan is coming in at the number 12 class in the country right now, which in most seasons, in a lot of years, this is seen as there, but coming off back-to-back like top 5 classes where they could have been even top 3, 4, depending on if one more guy goes their way. It's kind of a disappointing class overall. So MUSTAPHA Muhammad is your headliner as of right now, with Otis Reese not signing.
Of course, you do kind of, sort of, not really, but it still counts. Get Shea Patterson.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, and it probably should count.
Yeah,
junior college guys count.
Exactly,
for some schools count. I don't know, whatever.
And that would be a 5-star transfer, easy right there.
Absolutely.
All right, so MUSTAPHA Muhammad is the top signed recruit today. Followed up after Muhammad is cornerback Miles Sims, number 148 overall. Michigan went into Georgia to get him. He's been committed since April. He signed today and is going to enroll early.
Yeah, so like 2 or 3 commits. One Otis Reese is not signed, so we don't think he's going to end up in Michigan. But from the state of Georgia, and Tom, we talked about Houston being the place to be where Muhammad was from as far as talent. What's the other place we talked about nonstop today? It was the state of Georgia, and really how Georgia is, the quarterbacks, the offensive linemen, the linebackers. Miles Sims, his nickname, Tom, what's his nickname? Spider. Great nickname. They just call him Spider, right? He doesn't even have a first or last name. He's just Spider to the people.
Spider Sims.
The Michigan football coach. I saw some cool graphics out there today where it's basically him in a Michigan uniform with like spider webs coming out of it. It's pretty cool. I think this guy's going to be an instant impact player, and he's one that when he signed with Michigan, Tom, it was a true family decision. I'll kind of talk about that a little more. It's like his mom and dad came up, which certainly isn't surprising by any means, but his parents came up, and they were wild more with the academic side. They were wild more with the, hey, what kind of support do we get compared to the other visits they took, the Georgias, Florida States, Tennessee's, Auburns of the world. So I think this is one of these recruits that normally you wouldn't expect a guy like this to come up to Michigan, top 150 player overall with no true ties, but Michigan's recruiting, focusing on the things that maybe some other schools didn't focus on, the off-the-field stuff, the academics, the support, the well-rounded, the life after football is what won his family over. And so he's a big get. And with Michigan, two true sophomores this year, true juniors next year. One or more of those guys in David Long and Lavert Hill could go pro after next year. Certainly Lavert Hill has high potential to do that. And with Ambry Thomas, the only guy in the second name making an impact as a true freshman this year, Miles Sims is going to get a lot of early playing time.
We've seen teams like Ohio State and Florida at times get those freshmen in playing early. Michigan now on that track, which in the end is a good thing. Yeah. Because if you have guys going pro early, that means they did pretty good for you. We'll get now to our next Michigan commit, quarterback Joe Milton. There had been a little bit of buzz when Shea Patterson first committed, James, that, is Milton going to stay? Is he going to leave? Well, signed today and he's going to enroll early. He's not going anywhere, and he'll redshirt this year as well.
Well, of course, he's definitely going to redshirt if they don't.
Barring a colossal streak of injuries.
Sure, barring clock students. But I did hear a few weeks back that, hey, Joe Milton could be a guy who gets in there with a package this year if they're not super satisfied with the recruiting, with the quarterback play. That, by the way, was pre-Shea Patterson that happened. So I doubt that's going to happen anymore. But, Tom, people who have seen him play call him a less refined passer version of Cam Newton. He's got the size, Tom. He is a giant man, 6'5.5", some say 6'6", 230. By the time he's at Michigan, Tom, by the time he even starts, he could be up to 250, 260. I mean, you never know how big he can get with a college.
If it's a legit 230 right now.
Sure, if he's a college weight training program, but beast of an arm. His biggest issue, much like Emory Jones, the quarterback who's going to Florida, who decommitted from Ohio State, is that he is very inaccurate in his passing. And so he is going to be a talent. He can run like crazy. He wants to consider himself a passing quarterback. He's got a gun like crazy, but much like some of the more unsuccessful quarterbacks Michigan's had in the last few years, he's not very good accuracy-wise. So Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan staff has a big project.
And you see that at times with some of these quarterbacks who are great athletes because they don't need to have their techniques refined. They don't need to have their technique down pat because they're such great athletes and they have huge arms. They can get by where a less athletic or less gifted quarterback needs to be a little bit more of a technician. Yeah,
and the biggest challenge with him, Tom, I don't think he has gotten the quarterback coaching throughout his high school. You just said it there. He didn't play quarterback for a while early on. He's a big kid. So where do they put a lot of big kids? They put him at defensive line, offensive lineman. You showed his tenacity in other sports, saw his athleticism. They finally put him at quarterback once he got into high school and got into the varsity. And so he is not one of these players that, much like a Shea Patterson, Brandon Peters, or Dylan McCaffrey, his teammates next year, he is not a player who's going to quarterback camps, who's going to Elite 11, who's a private quarterback tutoring by any means.
Yep, all right, we'll keep it rolling here with our Michigan football commits here. Cameron McGrone, 4-star recruit, number 182 overall, number 12 outside linebacker from Indiana. He signed today as well.
Yeah, big, what's the theme here, Tom, in these first 4, 5, 6 players that we're talking about?
Great names.
Great names, for sure, great names. But more importantly is they're not in the state of Michigan. I don't want to downplay the state of Michigan and the recruiting that goes on there and the level of talent from Michigan high school football. But if Michigan depended on Michigan players only, they would win about 4 games a year, Tom. And so what happens here, if they're going to Georgia, if they're going to Texas in the Houston area, if they're going to Indiana and getting the best players, one of the best 2 or 3 or 4 players in those states, and they can do that over 15 states, that's a heck of a class. And that's what Michigan really did the last 2 years. Didn't do it as well this year, but now we're into new states that they haven't done as well. The Georgias of the world, Texas, Indiana have had some success with Brandon Peters, Chris Evans, and will continue that success with Cameron McGrone. Not going to be an instant impact player. I don't think he's going to get a chance to start or play too much next year, but down the line, after Devin Bush moves on, after Khaleke Hudson move on, he's going to be a guy that they're going to count on to make big plays kind of 2019, 20, and beyond.
All right, so McGrone there. We'll move now to our next one, AIDAN Hutchinson, 4-star recruit, number 231 overall, the number 3 recruit from the state of Michigan. James, what do you make of Hutchinson's ability?
Well, his dad, Chris Hutchinson, he is a former Michigan player, Tom. This is what we call a Michigan legacy player, right? So his dad, Chris Hutchinson, is kind of the reason why. Why would he come to Michigan? Well, of course, his dad is a player there. Interesting, Tom, a year ago, 2 years ago, he was on no one's radar as far as a potential big-time recruit. He had a big growth spurt, all of a sudden, a big growth spurt over the last couple years, and kind of developed into this beast of a man, kind of bigger than his dad even was, which is tough to say. His dad was a linebacker for Michigan. So 6'6", Tom, 260. Oh, yeah, I can't wait to AIDAN Hutchinson. He's been one of the guys who has been recruiting on Michigan's behalf, calling other players, tweeting other guys.
The guy you want.
What's that? Yeah, being that he's like the highest rated guy out of the state of Michigan for them, he has been the ringleader when it comes to kind of wrangling up this class, getting guys interested. And of course, given that his dad's a Michigan alum and a great Michigan player, multiple-time Big Ten, all Big Ten, I believe, is that he was going to all the home games. So anytime there was official, unofficial visits, AIDAN Hutchinson was there. He is going to make an impact in Michigan on the defensive side of the ball at defensive end. There was rumors, by the way, he could go to offensive line. Still think that's a possibility, but right now they're gonna have him as a defensive lineman.
O-line is a little bit thinner than the defensive line here. Speaking of offensive line, let's get to the next committee here, also from the state of Michigan. JALEN MAYFIELD from Grand Rapids, committed to Michigan back in May. He signed today, James.
Yeah, I mean, you love when you have multiple big-time linemen, offense, defense, top 300 players in your state, and they come to Michigan over going, to Michigan State, going out of, we've seen too many guys, Tom, in the last 6-7 years that have gone out of state offensive tackles. You had Michigan's best offensive lineman in a decade go to Oregon a few years back, right? That doesn't happen very often. So JALEN MAYFIELD sticking with Michigan is a big deal, and it's such an important position of need because they have missed out on some players like Isaiah Wilson, who went to Georgia last year.
That was a tough loss.
They've had a couple guys spurring them late, just like Wilson, some others, and some of the guys they brought in, Tom, haven't developed as fast as they needed them to. So Michigan needs all the offensive linemen they can get, and JALEN MAYFIELD is going to be a big part of their plans going forward.
We'll stick now with the offensive line side of things. Let's go to offensive tackle Ryan Hayes, number 319 overall from Traverse City, Michigan. He committed also back in May. signed today.
Yeah, so out of Michigan, offensive lineman, can't beat it, Tom. This is the formula. If Michigan can kind of turn into what Wisconsin is in Nebraska and just have 30 offensive linemen sitting there ready to play. Just
or apparently what Georgia's become.
What Georgia's going. I feel a lot more comfortable. Or what Stanford was under Jim Harbaugh and still is under there. The biggest challenge they've had, which is the most surprising under Jim Harbaugh, is their inability to field a competent offensive line. Now, when we get into these recruiting classes, I think a little bit will be discussed in some of our busts of why maybe 2015 class or 2016 were a little bit bad. But there was, I don't know how there's an excuse year 3 under Jim Harbaugh that you can have this poor of an offensive line. You're losing your worst guy in Mason Cole. So the more offensive tackles, offensive guards I see, especially guys from Michigan who grew up with an affinity for the school, I think you got to feel really comfortable that they're going to come in and make an impact at the University of Michigan. So he's not an instant impact guy, Tom. I don't think anyone thinks that Ryan Hayes is going to come in like a Cesar Ruiz or a Chuck Filiaga did this year and get playing time or even start like Ruiz did down the rise. This is more of a 2, 3, 4 year down the road kind of guy.
A developmental type.
Yeah, developmental type. If he gets to the start, 18, 19, 20, if he started by 20, you feel good. If not, then you're hoping you can continue on track to be a fourth-year junior, fifth-year senior kind of guy.
Those are the last of the 4-star recruits this year for Michigan. We'll move now to some 3-star guys, typically some lesser recruited guys, but I am of the belief, James, that if Jim Harbaugh likes what he's seen, that means you probably got some upside, and we start with running back Christian Turner from Georgia. I hear running back from Georgia, and I think, you know what, he's probably got some ability.
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing football outside in the nice weather for years, so he's got way more field reps than a guy from the state of Michigan who's got winter 7-8 months out of the year. So Christian Turner, Tom, has not the size, I think, a typical Jim Harbaugh running back wants. So if you look at his stat line, 5'11", 187, smaller.
And looking at him on film, that strikes me as one of the examples that we have where, hey, you know what? Maybe he's not as big as he's actually listed. I'll tell you what my high school team used to be. All right, here's your height. Add 2 inches and 25 pounds.
Yeah, well, that's true. So 5'11", he could be more like about 5'8", 5'9".
He looks more like 5'9", 5'10" to me.
Yeah, for sure. So been committed to Michigan since April, Tom. Looked around a lot. So got offers from Florida, got offers from Mississippi State. Took a few unofficial visits. Unofficially visited Michigan State before even committing to Michigan. Unofficially visited Notre Dame. So he kind of did the the Midwest recruiting swing with visiting Notre Dame, Michigan State. Michigan got a recruitment commitment from him shortly after his visit. Goes down to Georgia. I think if you look at this commit, Tom, guys like Jim Harbaugh and Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and Urban Meyer, there's always a method to the madness. And I don't want to say Christian Turner isn't going to make an impact at Michigan, because I certainly think he has a great highlight film, and with the right training program and the right system, he could be a highly productive college football player. But you could probably find a bunch of Christian Turners, within driving distance of the University of Michigan. So what I think this is, Tom, is Michigan's got their eye on his county, his school in the 2019-2020 classes.
Building up those relationships.
And they want to build up those relationships, and that's why you go and take a Christian Turner overtaking a more local guy. They've got guys in his high school in the next 2 classes, and then who to his play. So anytime you could have Christian Turner go back over Christmas break 2 years from now and tell all his guys how much he loves Michigan, all the guys who were sophomores and freshmen when he was a senior, that's a good thing. That's spreading the Michigan brand. As you were pointing on our screen here, Tom, we just joked 5'11" is what they're listing at him. Well, he's also been listed as 5'8", 5'9", according to some other websites.
Makes more sense.
I think you're probably getting him about 5'8", 180, Tom. He is going to be a scat back from Michigan. I don't think he's ever going to be a 20 carry a guy kind of player for them.
I do like his build, a thick lower body that'll help him break some tackles.
Nice legs.
Exactly. We'll keep it rolling here with some more 3-star recruits. How about Jemin Green, the 3-star from DeSoto, Texas, Michigan, going down south to nab this kid?
Yeah, the Green brothers are twin brothers, Tom. They're both coming to the University of Michigan. We've got some film of them here. Great haircuts by these guys. I like that haircut. Tom. If I wasn't going bald, which we all understand the woes of that, friend of the program, Adam Biggers there in the middle of them, if I wasn't going bald, I would have my haircut like the Green brothers. But they are not as highly talented guys as you want, Tom. I think just like we talked about with Turner, they're more projects. They're not instant impact players. A lot of this class is not instant impact players, Tom. But what I have been told by people who have kind of an inside look at what Michigan is doing on the recruiting trail, which I don't follow, on a day-to-day basis, I'm more focused on the actual team, is that a lot of the guys we're going to talk about up here in the next 20 minutes or so, the 3 stars, even less than that, is is that Jim Harbaugh is worried more about measurables and worried about kind of speed and what you come to Michigan in camp and how'd you perform in the cone drill, how'd you perform in the 40, what's your size, and is trying to build kind of a team like you would if you're putting together a company or something like that. You want a strong analytics guy, you want a strong sales guy, and that's where the Green brothers come in. So they have got the size, Tom, that you want, 6'2", 168 for German, and his brother 6'2", 165. So tall players in the secondary.
Got to get him in that weight room.
Yeah, got to get in the weight room to be players. But if you look at the cornerbacks Michigan's brought in, the safeties they brought in, even the guys they're playing this year, they are not going for the standard 5'10", 5'11" cornerback and 6-foot safety. They're going for 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" guys. I think it's going to give them an advantage long term.
And I think that's exactly what we've seen here with the next recruit, Sammy FAUSTIN from Florida, listed at 6'2", 190. There's another lanky, long corner. What more and more teams with at the NFL and the college level like in their corners to match up against those giant wide receivers.
Yeah, coming out of Naples, Florida. If I grew up in Naples, I wouldn't even be caught dead anywhere going near the state of Michigan. So I give him some props for coming. Naples on the Gulf Coast, just a little bit north of Miami, opposite side of the state, much south of Tampa. So basically, he's going from perfect weather to Michigan weather. But this is the kind of the situation you talked to. He's got the measurables that Michigan's looking for: 6'2", 190, as we said, out of the state of Florida. Top 100 guy in the state of Florida. So that kind of was like, whoa, he's not that good. But Florida is loaded with talent. I think it's another situation is that part of the country Michigan wants to put their flag down in. Sammy FAUSTIN meets the requirements of the measurables and the production that Michigan's looking for. And here we go. I don't know if you look at Michigan's recruiting class under Jim Harbaugh, 3 full classes and kind of like a third of a class that towards the end of 14 into that first month of 2015. They've recruited from more states than probably any program in the country, up there with Alabama and Ohio State. They have brought in players, and I should have looked this number up, but it's over 20 states, Tom. It could be as high as 25 states across the country, so in Jim Harbaugh's time.
Let's go back to one more, a little bit more local. How about Michigan itself? Ben Van Sumeren, an athlete, James, kind of sounds like he's going to play that tight end, H-back, fullback, think Khalid Hill role.
Yeah, this guy, Tom, is an ass kicker. That's the only thing I can give you. Like, look at this film we're going to bring up here. He just looks like he got, look, where do you do a signing day at? It's not like it's in the library or the lunchroom. It's in the weight room. This guy basically threw up 220. He threw up 225 about 15, 18 times, wiped his brow with a Michigan towel, with a Jordan brand towel, sat down, tossed a sweater on, zipped it up a third length, signed with the University of Michigan. So a recent flip from Iowa, that's right. And I love when you get the guys from Iowa. Whenever you get those kind of like meathead looking guys from Iowa, they're tough guys because they were going to Iowa for a reason. Now they're bringing it to Michigan. He's going to get the Khalid Hill role, the Ben Mason role, maybe a little bit of what they're doing with some of the tight ends.
A little awkward there.
Yeah,
a little
awkward, but I could see this guy, blocking as a tight end. I could see him getting those swing passes out of the backfield that Jim Harbaugh has been famous for over his years. Not as much with Michigan over the past few years. They were more giving the Khalid Hill the handoff up the middle, if you will, than swinging him outside. But he did score a touchdown in the 2016 Ohio State game. I think that's the kind of player with Ben Mason and Ben Van Sumeren. I think you basically have kind of like if you want to pick 2 bodyguards or 2 guys to be friends with in high school because they'll beat up the bullies, Tom. Those are the 2 guys you want. So I think this guy, 600 player overall in the country, out of the state of Michigan. I think he's going to be a beast, one of the tougher players in America. Yep.
So I think he's going to be a guy that the fans like and Jim Harbaugh likes as that grinder.
Yeah,
what he strikes me as.
I could see you getting them getting chants for him. He's got a great last name, so I could see you him being kind of fan favorite here in a couple of years in Michigan.
All right, next up here is Taylor Upshaw, who was originally committed to Florida. He flipped though back in November. He's going to enroll early. What do you think of this kid, James? A lesser-rated recruit, but you see from Florida, Michigan, 3 stars. Maybe this is an example of the scouting services missing something.
You'd hope it's one of those things that the scouting service is missing. So, in that same range as FAUSTIN and some others, kind of outside the top 500 players in the country. So higher 3 stars, but fans always get super disappointed when you send anything less than a 4-star. Sometimes anything less than a top 100 player. So visitor for the Ohio State game, clearly had a good time at that game. Was with Florida prior, so clearly had a lot of top offers. I'm excited about this guy, Tom. again, he matches the measurables Michigan's looking for. He's not one of these 6'1" defensive ends coming off the end or something like that with 280 pounds, like a kind of shorter, fatter guy. 6'5", 240, Tom. And you know, with a last name like UPSHAW, he's got to be a beast, because I think there's been a few UPSHAWs over the year, all of them beasts. You got a great last name, you're going to be a great NFL football player, in my opinion. So here's what we're not going to get, Tom. Michigan was one of the younger teams in the country this year, right? Actually, matter of fact, they were the youngest team in the country. Now, coming back next year, you're going to, if you count Brandon Peters as a starting quarterback, which I don't think is actually fair either, although he is the starter of the bowl game, you know, they're going to have more starting returners than any team in the country. Only losing 2 guys that we know of on defense. Whether or not we've got a player going pro early is to be determined. Only 3 guys on offense, I believe. Got your wide receivers coming back, got your tight ends coming back, got 3 of the 5 offensive linemen coming back, and then whoever's quarterback. So they are stacked next year. So you're not going to expect many of these players, no matter who we're talking about, maybe outside of Muhammad, and maybe Otis Reese, if he decides to come to Michigan, getting a lot of playing time last year. Michigan played more true freshmen in 16 and 17 than they have basically in the history of the school, Tom. 6 true freshmen started multiple games at one of the positions, starting 22 or a special teams position this year, the most ever for the University of Michigan. So don't expect any of these guys to be in that position next year.
All right, we'll stick with our flip theme here. We'll go to the next guy here on our list. It's actually going to be Luke SCHOONMAKER here, the tight end, 3-star recruit, number 764 overall. Actually, not a flip here, that's my mistake. He committed to Michigan back in July. Yeah, so great last name. This is a great name day for college football recruiting, Tom. I love all these guys' last names. SCHOONMAKER is a beast. He's a again, I don't want to kind of, people think I'm down people think I'm down on this Michigan class because they're not a ton of 4 stars and not a ton of 5 stars, but SCHOONMAKER is just like some of these other players. He fits the mold of what Jim Harbaugh is looking for, specifically at that tight end position. Big, tall, 6'6". He can go right down the middle of the field. He can catch the ball in traffic. Great hands, Tom. I saw him catch a lot of footballs where other guys would have dropped him. Out of the state of Connecticut, not the most fertile recruiting guards, but Michigan has brought players in from the state of Connecticut in recent years. And I think, you know, he commits to Michigan. He came to Michigan football camp over the summer. That's kind of where that got a commitment from. If Michigan sees him in person and offers him a scholarship, I'm okay with that. Yeah. Here's the flip I was talking about. Julius Welschoff from Germany was originally committed to Georgia Tech, made the flip today. He is signed now, the German guy coming over to Michigan.
Tom, I have been told, and I'm not going to be beat around the bush here. I heard about this guy 4 or 5 months ago. Didn't hear a single thing about him for the last 3 months. All of a sudden, he flips today, Georgia Tech to Michigan. Last kind of minute flip. Maybe this is the reason that a guy like Kevin Doyle didn't get a chance to sign, because they knew this flip was coming. They wanted to hold that scholarship for a top 10 recruit out of Baltimore. Maybe, but Julius Welschoff out of Germany, Tom. Michigan is going international. I have been told that Jim Harbaugh is looking to schedule a football game out of the country in the next couple of years, which would be awesome. I think this kind of is the first step in that. Bringing in a player from out of the country. We know they went to Rome this year, going back to Paris in April for spring practice. Again, Michigan's kind of, you know, separating themselves that way. They've gone to American Samoa to do a camp. They did their whole recruiting camps a couple years, just spreading the wings of the Michigan brand one more time. We're throwing the country of Germany kind of as a joke, but more importantly is, you know, now they've got a football player who was born in Germany, lives in Germany, coming to the University of Michigan, and I'm excited about it. I think this kid, they say, Tom, not a lot of football experience, but he is a phenomenal athlete. Limber, can do backflips, can do front flips, can run a 40-yard dash in under 4.8. He is a great athlete. Now he's got to learn how to be a football player.
All right, we'll keep it rolling here with some of the commits we've had. Just a few more left here. We'll go to another running back, HASSAN Haskins from Missouri, James, just inside the top 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy who's been around, you know, he's been talked about for a lot because Michigan's been on him for a long time. I thought he'd be one who'd be processed down the line. I thought Michigan would shoot a little bit higher for you know, the recruits they're going for. He's listed at 6'1", 202, Tom, so he fits the mold of what Michigan's looking for in a running back, but not a lot of really other strong offers, Tom. Eastern Michigan, Louisville, Memphis, Ohio University, Purdue, Western Kentucky, and some other ones. So been around the program a long time, stuck with Michigan, committed a while back in October on his official visit to the University of Michigan, and they must have saw something in him. I don't want to be a downer. I hope HASSAN Haskins proves me wrong, but I would say if I was going to put the over/under on the yards he scored, the yards from scrimmage he has as a running back rushing the ball in his entire Michigan career, I put it over under 200 yards.
Cool. Keep it rolling here. We mentioned his brother. Now it's time for German Green here, another kid from DeSoto High School. Seemed like a package deal for those two.
Well, definitely a package deal. The brothers came on. German Green, we've also got a commit from German. I think Jim Harbaugh is trying to say himself. We may see a Michigan football game in Berlin in the near future. It's got to happen with a player named German and a player from Germany. They may actually start calling Michigan football games in German. All a joke, we know it, but this is his brother named a package deal. More importantly than their kind of production in the field, Tom, the more important thing for them is these guys are big athletes. Him and his brother are big guys, 6'2", 6'3", 180 pounds. They've got to hit the weight room, Tom. They've got to put on about 10, 15 pounds of solid muscle, but they are good athletes with the proper training, and no one has had better development of the secondary than Michigan in the past couple of years under Don Brown and their secondary coach. And so, you get Jordan Lewis as an All-American. You get Shane Stribling playing all Big Ten averages. Lose both those guys, lose your entire secondary, still have one of the best passing defenses in the country this year. I think a guy like German Green and his brother can come in and make an impact 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road with that size, with the coaching they're going to get from Michigan.
All right, one more commit here, or at least commit, not sign guy, is Ronnie Bell. We mentioned this at the top of the show, James. Did not sign because of an NCAA holdup.
Yeah, so he is a great, phenomenal freak athlete, Tom. What he doesn't have is much football experience. Only been playing football in the last couple of years. Prior to that, top-level basketball recruit, certainly not like a Duke or a Michigan-level basketball recruit, was signed with Missouri State, Tom. Signed a national letter of intent in the early signing period for basketball, not thinking football was going to be his career. As his coach put out some of his tape, as schools started to look at him, we were told that there were quite a few schools, the Kansas States of the world, the Oklahoma States, the Missouris, and the SEC, that were going to come after him pretty heavy after today, kind of to get him, see what scholarships they had, go after him pretty hard for the February signing period. Jim Harbaugh jumped on it just in the past couple of days, offered him a scholarship, hoping he was going to sign today, Tom, but sign a national letter of intent to another school for basketball. He might, Tom, have to sit out an entire year. We're not sure yet. No one knows the rules. I have kind of gone into the NCAA archives this afternoon. I read hundreds of pages of documents. I'm unable to find the exact rules, so I apologize for that. He may never show up at the University of Michigan, which is, I think it's just I'm sorry, for another year in general as far as a player on scholarship. He may not ever go there because you never know what will happen is if he has to reopen up his recruitment if he can't sign until February or something like that, sit out a year. If he doesn't end up going JUCO or something like that for a year, end up somewhere else. So we'll see what happens with Ronnie Bell, but as of now, he will not be signing with Michigan today. He'll have to wait minimum until February.